Now, rampant criminality has increased in South Africa, sparking police raids in different parts of the country. I mean, in Kagiso, a contingent of police descended on illegal mines after violent protests sparked following the rape of 8 women. We have also seen an increased spate of shootings in different parts of the country, with many people blaming a lack of policing among communities. For more on this, I'm joined by criminal justice expert Dr. Siyanda Dlamini. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, just yesterday, police presence remained heavy as demonstrators in Kagiso slowly returned to their homes after a day of raids and a manhunt for illegal miners. At the same time, community members in the Kanana area in the northwest have also spoken about how they live in fear of zamazamas. They say that they hear gunshots and don't understand why zamazamas are fighting. I mean, what does this say about the role that police and law enforcement agencies should be playing to protect communities?
Good evening, Ms. Sithole, and good evening to your viewers. I think this actually tells us that there is that disjoint that is currently taking place between the cooperation of the communities together, working together with the police, whereas you see this intense disgruntlement from the community's side, where they find themselves to have become fed up because they have been reporting these incidences, and there is nothing that is done by the law enforcement agencies in this regard, the SAPS. What this tells us again is that there is more that still needs to be done within our law enforcement agency per se, changing the status quo that we are seeing currently happening of maybe perhaps we can say has to do with the organizational culture within the sets themselves. And it tells you that the communities themselves, they have been reporting these incidences. So the issue of being proactive with regards to these issues rather than being actually reactive per se, I think it's what we need to deal with in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, looking at another incident in Khayelitsha, for instance, it's now being described as a playground for extortion, where businesses are now being targeted by criminals for extortion fees. I mean, it's not the first time we've heard of this element of criminality, but we've mostly seen it with the owners of small businesses and townships, where those who refuse to pay are perhaps attacked and sometimes killed. We're now talking about an SOE. Is this a new trend?
I think that we need to be mindful whenever we're looking at these issues, Ms. Sithole. One of the things that we need to be mindful of is where are these taking place? And that will tell you about the community within that particular place. And it is a new trend that is currently happening. But the very question that we should be asking ourselves, there is a plethora of research that has been conducted to deal with these criminal activities per se. However, how do we then allow or bring that together with the law enforcement agencies to actually act with that research to actually understand what is currently happening within these communities? Because as it stands right now, you're looking at there's a known crime that is taking place within these societies per se. But why is it that the law enforcement agencies, in this particular case, the SAPS, is not acting up, or preventative measures are not being put into place to curb the scourge such as this?
So, as I make mention of the incident in Khayelitsha, I mean, I was referring there to ESCOM employees who say that as they enter the community, then there are those who are running some form of syndicate or operation that, you know, an extortion fee needs to be paid. ESCOM knows about this. They say that they're engaging with community leaders and business forums to find solutions to resolve this matter. What should these solutions look like?
Um, I think, Mr. Tole, I have to mention that these solutions have to include both the law enforcement agencies together with the society. When I'm meaning the society, I'm also involving the ordinary society members and businesses, faith-based societies, of which this, the particular mechanism to try and solve this should be should be coming from both the society and the law enforcement agencies. That because every society is different based on the geographical area. Hence, the problems of Khayelitsha may not necessarily be the problems that are currently happening in Gauteng. So that particular community will know what will work best, what are their needs per se when it comes to crime, because every member of the society within South Africa should be feeling safe, should be able to be safe at all times. But what we're seeing currently happening is the other way around.
Yeah, we've actually heard the National Police Commissioner, for instance, speaking about the importance of community policing forums, saying that when police can do the work, but they would get the guidance mostly from the members of the CPF, who are ordinary community members who are involved in the day-to-day monitoring of what happens within their communities.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Tole. What I like to say about the issues of community policing forums per se is that within the society itself, not everyone, if you go, depending on a geographical area per se, if you look at an urban area, that is where you'd see that community policing forums are much more functional. But when you go to a township or a rural area per se, you will find that the community policing forums are not necessarily fully functional. There are different reasons for that per se. And one of those is that these community policing forums personnel per se are not known to the community. There are a lot of things that can be said when it comes to community policing forums. And again, if you're only looking at community policing forums, then there are people that you're negating because the broader society has to play a role. And if you go to these societies, you ask them that, how often do you meet with your elected community policing forum personnel? And they'll tell you, who are those people? How did they get into that place? Because they are actually not involved with what the community is all about. So there are a lot of things, again, with community policing forums that are actually not fully functional. So it actually defeats the purpose.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for your time. We leave it there for now.